So till now we have created our player, we have added our background, and we have made our game moving. So till now we have achieved this, the game movement. Okay, so far so good. So today what we going to do is, let's start quickly. First, we noticed that background was not moving, so we're going to add parallax to our background. So for that, I'm going to select the last layer, the BG layer, and give it parallax 25%. And then the next background, I'm going to put the parallax as 50%. And then we can see the difference while moving. Okay, the background is moving with a parallax effect. The player is not turning, but that we're going to fix in this video. So parallax for the background done. Now we can add a specific backdrop to our BG. For that, let's add one more layer, and we are naming is backdrop. We are putting it here. So in backdrop, we're going to add few elements for beautification. Okay, so let's start adding elements to insert object, go to sprite, and let's check out in images. You can get some beautification object, that is backdrops. We are still trying to keep our video tutorial as close to our constructory tutorials. So we are taking all these forest plants. Okay, yeah, so we have our forest plant ready. It can animate. So let's correct the animation first. We're going to loop it, and I'm going to separate the plants left and right. So okay, let's name it plant 1, and I'm going to clone it with name plant 2. In 1, I'm going to remove the extra frames, and in this I'm going to remove the remaining frames. So now our backdrop is ready. So as per the construct, we are going to create these backdrops. And now we can work easily on our backdrop elements. So let's arrange it like we have seen in construct 3. This element here, some next element here. I'm trying my best to keep it close to the real one. Putting my kiwi here, and one more backdrop this side, and a final one here. So now if we'll see these, now you can see the backdrops are moving. Okay, so yeah, we are done with the backdrops also. Why these backdrops are necessary? Because we're going to add the leaf animation using this backdrop itself. Cool, we are done with the backdrop also. And now we're going to add our player the mirror and non-mirror scenes, so that whenever he turns Kiwi left or right, the right animation is shown. Cool. So for that, let's go to our event sheet. Now let's add player functions so that our player can move left and right. So for that, let's do one thing first. Close the default. Select the player base. Okay. Close default controls. Now let's add functions to our player. Okay. So select your player base. Make sure you turn off the default controls and then go to the event sheet. Now let's add, like, we have to add a function, keyboard function here. Let's go to object, keyboard, and we have to select the press key. On key pressed, I'm choosing on right arrow, player must move right. Great. And similarly, on key pressed left arrow, our player will move towards left. So far so good. We're going to add sides also because it was not turning first. Now we're going to mirror whenever our player turns. Now let's see how it is working. Now player is turning fine. Great. So now our player can move. Good, and it is turning fine. Now let's add animations to our player. Set animation to run. Now let's see. Okay, so now our player is running whenever base is moved. Similarly, we can also add the idle animation. So let's do this. When player is not moving, set animation, idle, and let's see the change. And If you want, we can reduce the idle, run, jump. So these are the three animations which we are using right now. Cool. So far so good. Player is moving. Animation has been added. It is idle. Let's assign a key for making our player jump if you want. As in the Construct game, they have given as Z. So on press of Z, you can again stimulate a that the player is jumping. So right now, if I'll press Z on my screen, I can see the player is jumping. I can use my cursor keys because I'm using default controls. So my player can easily jump and move right now. Cool, so player controls are done. And we can also do something like when player jumps, let's assign the animation jump animation. So our player movements completed. We can later add the falling animations. And now it's time to add few enemies into our tutorial. For adding enemies, we're going to our object layer and we're going to add enemies here. Insert object, put sprite. So go to this. As an enemy, let's select the beetle. Cool. So we have our beetle animation available in Construct 3 game. So this will act as our enemy, the beetle enemy. Now if you will see, it has some animations where the enemy is changing directions and it is walking. So let's break this into two. One, I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to name it walk and I'm going to name it change direction. And for walk, I'm going to keep the last frames and remove the first ones. And in this, we're going to remove these 4 frames and we're going to keep this. Let's do one thing, give it a speed of 8 and walk. And for changing direction, I'm going to put it a bit faster, 10. We are not going to loop this. So now our animation is ready. We have to do one more thing because the player is moving. We have to somewhere make this origin to this point. So let's do the bottom and let's apply it to all animations so that our player stays there. Cool. Now, so what we can do, we can keep our enemy somewhere. Let's keep this enemy to the same place where we saw. I'm moving this enemy to this location. Cool. And I'm also creating a copy of this by pressing Ctrl key. So now you can see I have replicated my enemy. So creating enemy is done. I'll name it Beetle. And now let's add movement to our enemy. Now, for making our enemy move automatically, we have to add an instance variable, and we are also going to add more enemies in the future in this game. So let's create a group and try to add enemies there. So go to families, add family, beetle, add, okay, and give it a family name, enemies. Now you can see beetle is available here. Now add an instance variable direction string. So here what we are trying to do, we want our enemies to automatically move and turn automatically when a wall comes to their left or right side. For this, we're going to see that our player is moving right or left. So for that we gave our instance variable. Now let's add movement to our, we want to make our enemy move automatically, so we are comparing the instance variable. When it is equal to right, okay, we have to do one more thing. We have to add the platform behavior to our enemy. Let's make it again 150, 500, 500, somewhere like 250, somewhere like 500, 500. Great. So now we have added platform behavior to our enemy, and we're trying to say when beetle is walking towards the right direction or the instance variable is right, our beetle will move towards the right direction. Great. Now similarly, when the direction is left, we want our beetle to move towards left side. Let's see how it is working. Our beetle is running too fast, so let's slow it down. Make it 40. Let's check. Okay, so now our beetle is running, but it is not turning. Okay, so let's do one thing. Add the code. So when it is turning right, we're going to make beetle mirror, not mirrored, but when our beetle is turning left, we're going to make it mirror. We are also going to add when beetle has wall on its left. Let's say the right one. So then it should turn, and for turning, we're going to add this. Beetle should it should set the instance variable value left. And will be mirrored. Okay, and right now while we do this, we also add our animations. Walk animation, but when it is on wall, let's add change direction. Okay, and we're also going to add when on finished change direction, orbital will play walk animation. So now let's see how it is working. Now see, when it found a wall next to the right, it turned, but it didn't turn when it found a wall to its left. So now let's complete the code. Let's copy paste the whole code itself, and we're going to change the conditions. Now when it has a wall on left, we want to make it string instance variable to the right. This will be not mirrored, and this is fine. So now let's see what is happening. Great. This looks nice. Our beetle animation is done. Our enemy animation is done. Now we can keep this anywhere, but you will notice when the platform finishes, our player falls down. We can also stop this. Now let's add a code. Now when the player platform has wall, or let's add one more condition. When it overlaps, that is our base, and let's make it something like this. So when it finds a blank space, and we're going to add an OR, it will try to turn, right? And for left, we're going to make it minus 26. And let's see what happens now. We saw that player came back. Okay. So maybe we have to change this value. We noticed that we forgot to add an OR block. Now let's see. Now our now our enemy is not falling off the platform. Now we can easily keep this anywhere. Let's try to keep it in the same place where we find our beetle in our game. Here and here. That's good. Let's see how it is performing. Let's make our player reach. Our enemy is also jumping with us because of the default controls. So let's stop the default controls. Cool. This is a common mistake which happens. Check it out. Our enemy is performing fine, but the above beetle is running fast because the instance of one beetle, the speed has not been changed. So if you will notice, the speed. Cool. So anyways, we have added movement to our enemies. Now we have to add collectibles. Now let's add collectible to our frame. So for creating collectibles and gaining score, we're going to add again a new object. So let's go here and we can use these collectibles. So now we have collectible. Let's see the animation. Okay, let's make it something like 8. Now this looks better. So this is our collectible and we're going to give it sign behavior so that our collectible can move up and down. We're going to give it vertical movement sign. We can reduce the period. We can reduce the magnitude. And we can place several copies of our collectible which our player can collect. We can keep multiple copies similar to our Construct 3 game. Now let's see how our collectible is looking like. Yeah, so collectible is also looking good. Oh, our player died, but now we can see the collectibles are working fine. We have not yet added uh, the enemy interaction or scoring. Now we're going to add score. So for that, we'll create a hood where our score will be displayed. So let's create one more layer here. We'll name it hood. We'll make it below, or we should keep it above only. Hood. And in this layer, we will create a font which we will use for score. I'm not using sprite font right now. I'm just using normal text as of now, but later we'll go with sprite font. I'm just putting it for the time being, giving it white color. We can make the size bigger, and we will add an icon here for our beetle. So let's insert the beetle icon. I'm taking this collectible image I'm going to name it Beetlehood, and I'm going to place it here. Cool. So now our hood is ready. We're going to make the parallax 0, and we will notice that our structure won't change. Cool. So you can see score is visible here. But now we have to add the score whenever our player hits the collectible. For that, we're going to write the code on collision with another object, that is our collectible. Okay, our score will be added. For that, I'm going to add a global variable. I'm going to name it score. We're going to make it increment by 1. So we'll add into our score, and then we'll put the hood text which we have created here. We'll name it hood text. Then set text equal x space score, and this will be our score whenever we hit. Let's try and check it out. So now our score is increasing, but it is not getting destroyed. So what we will do, we'll say collectible destroy. Now let's see. So we saw now the beetle gets destroyed whenever we score. So now we have completed our score addition also into the game. Now let's move to the last part of this tutorial, part 2, creating effects. So I got a request like how to create leaves on this effect on this game. So let's start. So first we have to go to backdrop, and we have to add an object, right? That is the leaf. So this you can again get from construct 3 images. So these are the images available. So now you can see that there are images of leaves. I should better align them together. So we can do something like this. Some green leaves, and I'm duplicating it with default 2. And from 1 I'm going to remove the red leaves, and from this I'm going to remove the green leaves. And we're going to loop the animation for both, and we can see, so this is the way leaves are flowing. Cool. So now we have our leaves, and now we have to start the code for getting these leaves fall in our game. So let's start coding for that. Let's say that every 0.4 seconds, so every 0.4 seconds we're going to create object, and this we're going to choose our leaf. We have not kept the name for it. We should definitely rename it. Okay, and we have to create this in objects layer. Let me try putting the name. So we have to go back and change the layer. Right now we have to create it in object. The position. So what we are going to do with the position is, for X we're going to take the viewport. We want it to come from above, so we're going to take the viewport left, and we're going to put the layer name. So on this layer from the viewport left, plus we will add some random values. Okay, so we have got X for our new object, the leaf. Now we have to do the same for our Y position also. For this we're going to take viewport top, layer, object, and we're going to reduce some random amount from the top. And we're going to change this to our object. Let's see the output. So right now we notice the leaves are getting generated but not coming down. So we have to add a bullet behavior. So let's go. First, let's rename it to leaf, and let's add bullet behavior to our scene. So we're going to change these values. So let's put the value here 60, and we can keep the set angle and enabled on. So now let's add, once we have already created the bullet motion, so let's add bullet motion to 115 degrees, and we can put a random animation. So we can let leaves appear. I hope I renamed it to this only. I have to cross check. I have to check the leave. Okay, so it is default 2. I have to rename this to default 2. So now I have added bullet angle motion. I'm giving it a random animation. Also, I can do one thing. I can randomize the speed. So I'm giving animation speed some random value. Slow it down. And one thing we can do when we have to destroy these leaves also. So we're going to compare the Y. So when Y is greater than layout height, we're going to destroy these leaves. Now let's see how it is looking like. Now the leaves are falling. Okay, we can see the leaves appearing, but let's make it more smooth. So we're going to put a waving animation here. We'll add a sign behavior. Let's put it values like these. We'll make it random. We'll make the magnitude 100 and we'll randomize it. Now let's see how the leaf appears. Now we can see the animation happening. The leaves are falling. Cool. The leaf animation started. The only thing which I cannot see happening right now is the random colors. Let's see why it is not working. The first one is here. I did a small change. I noticed with default name it was not working, so I renamed leaves to green and red, and now the name turned to like red and green, and we can see the leaves are coming like this. So guys, here we complete the part 2 of the tutorial where we added parallax background, where we added our enemies into the scene, and we added collectibles, we added score to our scene, and we finally added effects to our scene with the help of leaf. And in next episode of our tutorial, we're going to learn more about attacking the enemies and many more things. So please like and subscribe the channel. Thank you.